graph on it, flavor.
Finally, oh, it's about to go down.
You just money no be problem.
Finally, oh, it's about to go down. Where my baby, oh, it's about to go down. I'm a sexy lady.
Hi guys.
How are you?
Hello. Long time. So you day?
Adewabi, you don't check on me.
I'll do that one day, okay?
Alright.
Muzo. This is the phone.
You know we could have done this at my place, like we discussed when you called, right?
I know. But meeting here isn't bad either.
Anyway, how much for this?
Cool 400 cedis.
Hey, Najwa, 400 for this?
Yeah, 400.
No, Najwa. 400 is way too much, Najwa. Way too much.
Come on, Muzo. This is hardly being used, eh? This model is going for 600 on the market.
That's brand new. I can give you 250 Ghana cedis.
Muzo, please. I need the money.
Finally, oh, it's about to go down. Finally, oh, it's about to go down. Where my baby, oh, it's about to go down. I'm a sexy lady. It's about to go down.
All right, 300 Ghana cedis plus we go out for a drink this evening. Take it or leave it.
Fine.
Okay, so 6 p.m. you come to my place, then we go from there.
I don't know if I could.
I knew it! I knew it was you!
Remo, why are you littering the place like that?
And you, what are you doing here?
Talking to my friends. Why?
Who? Muzo and Elom, your friends. Are you kidding me?
Oh.
Oremo, why? We are just chatting. Chat? What chat? Hey, listen, see, I beg. Hands off my sister. I don't want you guys near her at all. Not at all.
Oh, Raymond, you are always doing this.
Hey, what did you say?
I'm fed up with how you treat me.
You know what? Will you get back home right now before I really get mad at you? I said get your eyes back home! Now!
Remo, what's wrong with you?
You see, I know what you guys are like. Listen, stay away from my sister. This is the last warning I'm giving you. Stay away from my sis.
Is Raymond going to marry his sister eventually or what?
I shocked Steph. Remo is a real donkey, that one. Anyway, I have the phone here with me.
Definitely she's going to come see you.
You see that thing, eh? Look, heaven has ordained her. This girl is mine.
It's about to go down. I'm a sexy lady.
I go prepare my room. If Remo they like her, make you follow his sister, make them come my room.
We hope you enjoyed the short sketch, Hands Off. And now, it is time to pay a visit to the Far East, to the land of the rising sun. An island nation located in the Pacific Ocean, dotted with densely populated cities, mountains, and thousands of shrines and temples, Japan is known for its manufacturing ability and technological innovations. High-tech manufacturing giants such as Canon, Casio, Citizen, Hitachi, Mitsubishi Electronic, Nikon, Sharp, and Sony are all Japanese companies consistently contributing to improving the technological industry. Japan is also known for its car and motorbike manufacturing, with companies such as Honda, Toyota, Mitsubishi, Subaru, Isuzu, Kawasaki, Yamaha, and more, which have made trade market inroads within the transport business in virtually every economy on the planet. Then, of course, Japan is also famous for its iconic sword, the katana, its various versions And with the katana mention, one cannot forget the mystical ninja that have been made famous in hundreds of movie productions. On a somewhat quieter note, there's something else about Japan that is truly worth sharing, and this has to do with their culture of cleanliness. Going the extra mile to keep your surroundings and persons clean and tidy, at least with the greater majority of them. At the 2014 World Cup, Japanese fans, after watching their national team lose 2-1 to the Ivory Coast, stayed behind to help clean up the stadium. This practice continued in subsequent games that followed, and was something of a surprise to football fans from other nations, but in actuality, it's quite common at sports events in Japan. For one thing, Japanese culture in itself engages a fair number of practices that place emphasis on keeping clean. The two main religions practiced in the country, the Shinto religion and that of Buddhism, incorporate such practices and beliefs regarding hygiene and keeping the environment clean into the everyday lives of their followers. This love for keeping clean extends beyond religion. In building character in a person, the Japanese teach their children fastidiously and thoroughly, right from a very early age, a sense of duty which transcends into key habits regarding hygiene, avoiding littering of their environment, tidying up, and keeping their surroundings clean as much as possible. In many Japanese schools, the role of the janitors and cleaners are carried out by school children. This trait of the Japanese isn't just an overnight occurrence. Japan has a history of recurring natural disasters, earthquakes, tsunamis, and their like. Epidemics, parasitical infections, and food poisoning on a large scale have contributed to making the Japanese thoroughly understand the relevance of keeping the environment clean and adhering to high standards of hygiene. This is something they carry out with a zeal that is simply admirable in all aspects. The authorities and state institutions in Japan also play their part rigorously in keeping the environment clean. Signs with warnings not to litter and their like abound in cities and the countryside where appropriate. Where individuals are caught littering, state laws go about diligently prosecuting such offenders without exception. Interestingly, waste bins are not as common as most of us might believe for such a clean country, and this has to do more with the mindset of Japanese, which will be discussed later on in the program. With such behavior and character endemic to its citizens, it is no surprise that Japan boasts some of the cleanest cities and towns in the world. The city of Tokyo ranks #1 as the cleanest in Asia, whilst Kobe is ranked the 3rd cleanest. For centuries, foreigners who visited Japan have commented on just how obsessed the Japanese are with keeping clean. It is a trait which is carried on into current times. This is not to say that Japan hasn't any problems regarding waste management. They are human after all, but generally, Japan is quite a clean country compared to most others in the world. This is achieved through dedication and having a strong mentality of doing things the right way. No acceptance of mediocrity or cutting corners. Japanese do stuff the right way. It's that simple. And now, it is time to leave the land of the rising sun and journey back home. Humans are the dominant sentient species on the planet. On every continent of this world, human society is shaping the environment, changing it. In most scenarios, this change is permanent, the result of human intervention over years, decades, and centuries. One key aspect or feature of human alteration of nature or the environment, particularly in modern times, is the production of waste. With over 7 billion men, women, and children in the world we live in, there is a lot of waste being generated. Waste in itself is not such a serious problem upon it being produced, unless of course it is toxic. However, given the volume and variety of waste being generated, waste management, removal, and disposal have become a significant challenge for most nations. This is particularly so in the developing world. And in Ghana, much like other developing nations, there is ample evidence of the challenge faced regarding our environment and waste disposal. Street after street, gutter after gutter, it is clear and glaring that as a country, we have a serious problem when it comes to keeping our streets and surroundings clean. It beggars asking, why is this so? What is responsible for this ugly yet well-conspicuous characteristic of streets and environments in our cities and townships? Is it a societal problem in this country that we simply are not culturally inclined to doing our best to keeping our surroundings clean? After all, there are societies beyond our borders which pursue near religiously practices of keeping the mind, body, and surroundings, be it the home or beyond, clean and attractive looking. Or do we lay much of the blame on the doorstep of institutions empowered by government to deal with waste management? Do we point the finger and cite the lack of waste bins and other amenities for disposing of household waste to be the cause for our dirty streets and more? We can go on and on over these raised issues, apportioning blame and pointing fingers. The fact still remains that our waste is evident. The streets of our major cities and towns are dirty. Rubbish dumps abound close to residential areas. Gutters are filthy and choked. Drainage ways equally blocked with plastic waste, sewage, and ugly pools of stagnant water. The results are dire consequences which manifest in various forms that we shall next be shedding light on. The presence of clusters of flies not only makes for an unpleasant sight, but by their very nature, flies serve as vectors for a number of pathogen types that cause illness in humans. Flies transmit disease-causing agents when they move from or feed on unclean substances which bear or contain pathogens. Tending to defecate or regurgitate on surfaces they settle on, they easily transmit germs onto food, plates, cups, and other items they settle on which humans use. In a not so similar fashion, mosquitoes are also responsible for the transmission of diseases to humans. This they do by way of the bites of some female mosquitoes, which require human blood for their young to develop. The bites of mosquitoes are the means by which pathogens are transmitted into the bloodstream of people the female mosquitoes draw blood from. Scaling things up, we can next consider rodents, particularly rats and mice, which do their fair bit in transmitting a number of disease types to human beings via defecation and dropping infected dirt about in human habitations. Investigations over many years have revealed cholera, typhoid fever, dysentery, anthrax, leprosy, tuberculosis are among 65 diseases that can be spread by flies. Mosquitoes are responsible for the transmission of malaria, dengue fever, yellow fever, filariasis, encephalitis, Ross fever, Zika fever, and more, whilst rats are involved in the transmission of Lassa fever, hantavirus, rat bite fever, salmonellosis, amongst others. The impact of such diseases in our communities at a glance show immense adverse effects. Regarding the aforementioned diseases, the WHO claims in 2016 there were over 216 million cases of malaria worldwide, an increase of 5 million cases since 2015, with over 445,000 deaths being recorded. Treatment and combating of malaria came at a cost of $2.7 billion to various nations and organizations tackling the threat of this disease. Annually, 3.5 million people contract cholera worldwide, with there being 58,000 to 130,000 deaths on a yearly basis. Typhoid fever recorded 21.7 million cases in 2000, with 217,000 deaths. Repeated outbreaks of the disease in various countries, particularly in the Third World, indicate it poses a serious challenge to health in communities. In 2013, there were 161,000 deaths recorded, with a greater incidence occurring amongst the young of society. Tuberculosis resulted in 2 million cases worldwide. All these mentioned diseases are borne to humans by vectors such as mosquitoes, flies, and rodents, which have one thing in common. They thrive where there is ample waste and rubbish, which create conditions suitable for their populations to thrive. These ideal situations for these vectors are usually as a result of human practices and habits. To provide clarity on such habits, we simply have to point out an ideal example in our drama sketch, Hands Off. Now, as we observe Raymond walk over to find out what his sister is doing with Elom and Munzo, notice he is holding a black polythene bag. Also notice as he gets closer that there is a bin quite close by. When he finally begins to interact with his sister and the two men, he casually tosses the black polythene bag aside, not bothering to put it in the bin despite the protests of Munzo. With the polythene bag not left in a secure bin, it is only a matter of time before it ends up in one of many open gutters that abound in our communities. Once there, it joins the millions of bits of waste plastic, metal, wood, paper, and other forms of rubbish that we are used to casually dumping around our environments. Yes, we, the average individual out there, are well and truly the cause of our choked gutters, drains, and dirty environments that facilitates the breeding of mosquitoes, flies, and rodents. To be quite blunt, we are the cause of many thousands of deaths annually that could have been prevented through dedicated acts of not littering or dumping waste indiscriminately, thereby keeping our surroundings clean and free of disease-carrying agents. Beyond disease incidents, poor waste management and disposal has also been a significant contributor to cases of flooding, as has been witnessed over the years in the capital Accra and some other parts of the country. Once again, such practices cause us huge costs in terms of human life, resources, and finances that could have been avoided to a large extent if only we endeavored to do better, be more responsible and caring citizens. Other societies abroad are able to keep to appropriate standards, so why can't we change our attitudes and behaviors? Using Japan once more as a benchmark, it is considered rude to walk around and eat at the same time, as Raymond was doing. Rather, meals purchased from a food vendor tend to be eaten close to the vendor and after any disposables put in a waste bin for recycling. This is a behavior pattern widely practiced by many Japanese and one that can be encouraged here. With such societal practices, it is no surprise that towns and cities in Japan do not exhibit the rubbish and filth we find on our streets. A lot of Japan being clean on observation simply has to do with the mindset of the average Japanese to act responsibly in keeping the environment clean. It is one thing to point a finger, to complain and criticize others for the faults and vices we see about us. Yet, they who truly decide to effect change do not only complain, but they also provide objective ideas and, where possible, solutions as to how best to make society better. Join us in our next episode of this special edition of Plight as we take an in-depth look as to how to tackle the challenges that have been brought to light thus far. For now, be responsible, don't litter, and recycle as much as you can. Thanks and goodbye.